spring, that time of year that symbolizes renewal, rebirth, and joy. Spring is also the time of year when millions of high school students will think about their acceptance letters as they think about higher education. If trends continue, over 2 million high school seniors will enter into colleges in fall 2021. They will descend upon online schools, they will descend in person at public universities, 2-year community colleges, Ivy League schools, and historically Black colleges and universities. For many students, higher education is critical, a critical source to really go on and explore career paths in this global world. For Black students in particular, higher education oftentimes affords folks the social capital, the academic prowess, right, to negate cross-generational wealth inequity, to thus aid in wealth accumulation. How do I know? Because over 20 years ago, in 1997, I, too, was one of those Black college students. I headed down from Chicago, my hometown, to Nashville, Tennessee, to attend Fisk University. Fisk University, dedicated to its students being social justice minded, right? Black notable Fiskites include the public intellectual W.E.B. Du Bois, also includes Diane Nash and Ida B. Wells Burnett. So to choose Fisk, it really wasn't that difficult. I only had 3 criteria. The first, I wanted to go to a school away from Chicago. Secondly, the school had to have a small enrollment size. And third, I needed to receive some type of scholarship so that I could fulfill my studies. Fisk met all 3 requirements. Again, it was located in Nashville, 7-hour drive away from my hometown. The enrollment size was really small at only 1,000 students. And more importantly, I received a presidential scholarship. As long as I maintained a 3.0 for 4 years, I was able to get that scholarship. And to help offset some of my additional debt, my mom took care of it, as well as I worked a job at Fisk University. This was my life. But for many of my colleagues, they had to take on enormous amounts of debt. In fact, in 2001, the average Black student owed around $17,000. Today, Black graduates with a bachelor's degree can owe upwards of $52,000. So I couldn't get too cocky, right? So I joined the millions of borrowers, Black borrowers, as I was getting my graduate degree and my doctorate in 2004 and in 2013, respectfully. So again, like at Fisk, I got fellowships, I received tuitionships, scholarships, I paid and worked a whole bunch of jobs as an adjunct professor, a mentor, etc. But I still needed additional funds to cover the rising cost of tuition, right? For myself, but not only for me, for my daughter, who was born in 2001, a year before I started graduate school. So as a mother and a student, I now embody what's called the student parent, the student parent. Over 4 million college students are parents, most of whom are mothers at about 70%. When we think about race, Black students are oftentimes parents with 1 out of 3, and many of them also skew as Black mothers are oftentimes parents. Black parents typically hold an average student debt of about $18,000. So this was impacting other folks as well as me in graduate school. And just so you know, Black graduates oftentimes incur $25,000 more in debt than their white counterparts. But it wasn't all in vain. I realized my academic goals and my career goals, and I became a tenure-line professor here at Northeastern Illinois University, home of the Eagles. Some of the best and the brightest students are here across all economic demographics, racial demographics, right? So it was very, very, very exciting. Until 6 months later, when I had to start paying back my loans. Now, because of my household composition and my income, I was eligible for income-based repayment. So income-based repayment, essentially, if you pay those bills, those student debts, for upwards of 20 years, your debt can be canceled or forgiven. However, recent data suggests that of the 2 million people that have paid into this system for 20 years or more, only 32 have had their student debt forgiven or canceled. That's right, just 32. Well, 7 years into income-based repayment, I got to witness the joy of my daughter Zuri as she got accepted into her dream school, another historically black college and university, Howard University, home of many black notables, including our current Vice President, Kamala Harris. Like her mother, she amassed scholarships. We dipped into the savings that we had. Extended family gave us gifts, but she had to take out a student loan as well. Black students, regardless of wealth or income, black students are more likely to amass student debt. Roughly 85% have student debt just for undergraduate school alone. So with this student debt crisis, what are we to do? What are we to do broadly as a nation when the clock is ticking at $1.7 trillion, right? But what are we supposed to do in particular for black students, black families, black parents like mine who have been here for generation upon generation upon generation, who have been here and have been impacted by structural violence and systemic racism, beginning in enslavement, thinking about Jim Crow, redlining, restrictive covenants, mass incarceration, miseducation, and state-sanctioned violence. Right? These aren't isolated moments in our collective American history. Rather, they inform and shape wealth and outcomes for black students like me, black students like my daughter, right? It's no mystery that when we think about net wealth, black people have on average $17,000 as compared to $171,000 for their white counterparts. So what should we do as a nation that perhaps is on the fringes and is thinking about these things? Perhaps there's this larger conversation of canceling student debt broadly, but thinking about what it would mean for black families to seriously bridge this racial wealth gap, right? Black cancellation could really free up monies for black families so they could invest, they could save, right? Most black families don't have college funds or trust funds or ample savings, so cancellation could be the remedy, right, if we just open our collective minds. So it's spring again, and as black students and other students broadly think about their higher education choices, let's collectively think about the meaning of debt cancellation for black students. Thank you.